Dr. Kyle with Project Wellness Company. Today we're going to talk about extremity adjusting. A lot of times when people think about a chiropractor, they think about only adjusting the spine. But if it's a movable joint and there's an issue with it, we've been trained in order to take care of those different joints. And a lot of times we have a lot of muscular involvement as well with those joints. And so really commonly we'll have issues with shoulders where we're going to be getting pain in the front side of the shoulder. We may get it a little bit further down onto the bicep here, or we could have a first rib issue up at the top here causing pain down into that shoulder. And so the first step would be figuring out exactly what's causing those conditions, whether it is a bicep tendon that's not sitting in the correct groove, whether it's a shoulder that's rounding towards the front here because of a posture related thing, or if it's a rib issue on the backside here, same thing, posture related thing where that shoulder's rounding towards the front. And so once we identify specifically what's causing the condition and causing the pain that we're having, we want to take and set that bone back in a position where it would need to be, and then as well working to address some of the different muscles that could be contributing to constantly pulling that shoulder out of alignment. And so I'm going to have Dr. Bailey lay back here for me so we can check her shoulder. Typically before I adjust it, I'm going to have her run through different ranges of motion with me. So I want to look to see, is the shoulder moving in the correct from left to right? Is it very similar from left to right? And so a lot of times if we're having shoulder pain on the front side of the shoulder, it's because our pecs are really tight. And if the pecs are tight, typically it's going to be posture related things where that shoulder is rounded towards that front. And so I like to stretch that piece out, because if that's tight, that's constantly going to be pulling on the front of her shoulder. And so we're going to contact in where those pecs lie, and we're just going to run her shoulder through ranges of motion, rotating that, stretching the insertion of those pec muscles as they come up into that shoulder, ultimately working to free those and loosen those up. So that way when I adjust her shoulder, it's going to allow it to set back in place where it's supposed to be and not have the issues that she's currently dealing with. And so once I've made a couple passes through there, loosening that shoulder up, okay, we're going to get contact right on the head of the humerus here and just set that bone back into position where it's supposed to be. Now once we've done that, I still like to do a little bit more stretching. So with that shoulder, we should have really good internal-external rotation, and it should be the same. It should be able to get 90 degrees down and up. And so when we look at her shoulder and she comes in this direction, she's pretty good, hitting that 90-degree mark. Now when we go down, you're going to notice as well, now that the shoulder's back where it needs to be, her 90 degrees is where it's supposed to be. Now, this is a really good stretch to be doing, not only just to loosen that shoulder up, but it's also a really good preventative thing too, just to keep mobility in that shoulder and making sure that those muscles aren't getting tight, causing any type of an impingement or issue with the shoulder specifically. So we just run that through its ranges of motion, making sure that that shoulder's nice and loose, that we have no issues in that shoulder. And then I always like to just come back in and confirm that that shoulder is sitting right where it needs to be when we're addressing the shoulder.